Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 7:30 and we will start with our webinar presentation for tonight. Firstly, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for taking the time to join us for this evening's webinar. My name is Edwin and I will be your host for tonight's webinar entitled How Crude Oil Survives in the Face of Decarbonization and Renewable Energies. Our presenter today, Mr. CHONG, is from Kenanga Futures Dealing Global Markets team. Please note, today's webinar is purely for educational purpose and is not in any form or manner of trading advisory. Before we proceed, we would like to play you a short introductory video on our trading platform known as KDF Trade Active.
I have shared my screen. Good evening, everyone. If you're facing some technical difficulties, please feel free to leave your message in the chat box. Can anyone see the screen clearly? Okay, I guess there shouldn't be any problem. Okay, I will proceed with my presentations. Okay, before I start, I would like to apologize first for two things. First thing, most likely I'm going to overrun the session because I have about 70 slides to cover. And second thing is the arrangement or the orientation of the slide might not be as ideal because to be honest, this is a very challenging topic to cover and I find it not easy to arrange the orientation of the slide to accommodate the relevancy of the topic. So I have tried my best, but the sequence might be out in some opinion. So nevertheless, I try my best to provide all the content that I could gather. So I will start now with the slide. This is the disclaimer that I have to show every time for the confidentiality of the data. Show information here, and this is not a session where we recommend a buy or sell call, and we are not deemed responsible for any losses incurred as a result of the use of the information of this session. Yeah, okay. Today agenda will be first thing. Let me tell you how the flow is going to be. I'm going to show you some demography on energies, mainly on primary, mainly will be on fossil fuel. Then I will cover on renewables energy and also overall primary energy as a whole. And then I'm going to show you some facts about renewable energies. And also inside the second session, I'm going to show you some slides about decarbonization. Then I will proceed to the fundamental and technical outlook for crude oil for the second half of the year. Then I'll leave some room for Q&A at the last session. Okay, let me start with the data. This is the fossil. The following session will be a very quick about data. You don't have to memorize or take this too seriously. It's just to give you a very rough idea what is the demography and the current development of in the arena of energy. And also the data gathered here will be the latest as of 2019, not 2020. And I believe that even there is data for 2020, I don't think it will be reliable because of the pandemic. Okay, so we will be taking the data for 2019 for good. So okay, this is the consumption, and this is as of year 2000. As you can see over the map, you can see that most of the countries are recording higher fossil fuel consumption. As compared to the next slide, here is the latest 2019. You can see that almost half of the globe has been on the blue color, with the brown color only heavily concentrated in the Asian and Oceania region. As you can see, we have a much more balanced landscape now in terms of fossil fuel consumption, where some nations are recorded declines, and some nations about half of the nation are recorded decline, or about half of the nation are recorded increase in terms of fossil fuel consumption. And this will be the annual change in terms of percentage. This is very similar. Back in year 2000, most clients increase in terms of percentage of annual change in fossil fuel consumption, whereas in the latest year 2019, most are in the down reduced fuel consumption side, except for Asia. And then this will be the total fuel consumption to historical for the global fossil fuel consumption. Okay, and it is recorded. The increased pace has been slowing down, but it's still overall is still recorded improvement in terms of consumption. Okay, this is on a renewable energy landscape. As you can see that back in year 2000, most are increasing their renewable energy source, except for US and some few countries in India and Middle East. But to the latest one, you can see that even fewer countries are increasing even more countries are increasing their renewable source of energy as compared to reduce. This is in terms of percentage change, year 2000 and year 2019. And this is the overall renewable energy generations. We can't actually, the data are not able to capture consumption. Why? Because the renewable energy generated will be tapped into existing power grid that is commonly shared by the fossil fuel in energy generation. So they are not able to track the consumption separately, but they can only track on the generation of renewable energy. So that is the reason why they are not able to show you the consumption. Okay, as you can see, it's been increased, and ever since after year 2000, it has been in exponential growth. As you can see, hydropower is still the have the biggest share on the entire renewable energy generation, followed by wind and solar. After that, it will be other renewable energy like thermal, geothermal, biomass, or tidal energy. Now, this will be modern renewable energy generation. As you can see, the most higher capacity side will be on the hydropower as compared to wind and solar and other renewable energy. Okay, this will be the overall primary energy. This is the combination of fossil fuel energy and also renewable energies. As you can see, the world are growing larger and larger with more and more population, and there has been utilizing energy in a mass scale, as you can see. Okay, this is definition of primary. Basically, is in form of both renewable and non-renewable energy that is human engineered. Okay, this is the separations in terms of the primary energy. As you can see, the main energy consumption will still be from oil. This is mainly in the transportation sector, and then followed by coal and natural gas. The renewable energy are still on the lower end of the entire sharing. This is a clearer picture of the consumptions. Mainly still on fossil fuel. Big chunk of it is still on the fossil fuel. Okay, and in terms of the share of fossil fuel, you can see that oil is the biggest with 33.1%, followed by coal 27%, and then natural gas 24.2%. Okay, hydropower is the top with 6.4%, and then followed by nuclear, which is a non-renewable energy source. Then only wind and solar and biofuel. Okay, as you can see, in terms of year-to-year changes of primary energy consumptions, all sorts of energy has been recording increase except for coal, and this is actually as a result of the climate change, is global warming, and there is a pledge in the Paris Agreement where a majority of the nations of the world agrees to reduce coal consumption, because among all the fossil fuel, coal is the top #1 fossil fuel that produce this carbon dioxide emission. Okay, this is oil consumption. Basically, this is crude oil consumption. This is on year 2000. And this will be the latest 2019 data. As you can see, majority of the increase will still be from Asian, particularly China and India, already taking a large part of the consumption. Okay, as you can see, in terms of share of the primary energy from oil, the share from energy generated by oil has been slowly decreasing. Okay, but in terms of oil consumption overall is still on an uptrend, as you can see. But of course, for year 2020 and 2021, there will be a drop because of the pandemic. But overall, it will still be on an uptrend. Demand for oil is for here to stay. Okay, and the changes 1990 to 2090 is only up 42, and for 2000 until 2019 is up only 25. As you can see, the pace of growth has been slowing down, but still growing. Okay, so as a summary, global energy consumption share from oil is slowing down, but it's not at a worrying pace. This is to give you a rough idea of the demography. And global oil consumption is still recording growth, particularly from Asian continent. So like it or not, demand for crude oil will still be here, and it will not be diminished in the short term. Okay. And now I'm going to share to you the challenges faced by renewable energy. And first thing will be the type of available renewable energy source. The first will be from hydro, followed by wind, solar, tidal. This is basically water current as a result of the tide changes due to the movement of the sun and moon to the sea level. And also geothermal, this is actually heat extract from the beneath the Earth's surface. And also biomass. Biomass can be a very depends on the category. It can be from, let's say, gas released from landfill. It can be biodiesel. It can be also burning from those industry waste like woods. Is also a form of heat energy. Okay, that can be converted into electricity. Okay, let's talk about hydro. The challenges of this hydro energy is that, of course, the cost of building a dam with hydropower generation is very high. Secondly, is also even the entire planet 70% is covered with water, but the availability of ideal reservoir or ideal location is limited, because you have to meet certain criteria, like in terms of the volume of water available, the height of the dam, and if the height of them, meaning to say there is a upflow and downflow of certain height, so that this water, when they flow downwards, there is sufficient energy to move the turbine to generate electricity. And then it's also dependence on sufficient rainfall and snow, that when the snow melt, it will be turned into water and flow downstream. And also in terms of the environmental impact, the construction of hydro dam will have adverse impact on the ecosystem and wetlands of the surrounding area of the dam. And another disadvantage or challenges will be it takes a very long time to complete the construction, and they reach actually quite a number of cases that the project has been abandoned and then resume back construction. Our own Malaysia Bakun Dam project is one of the example where you see a lot of suspension and resumption of construction. And also in terms of challenges will be, it could create a natural disaster due to the construction of the dam, and also it could also be in the form of risk to the country that possess them, because in the event there is a geopolitical conflict, the dam can be a objective for military sabotage. When the dam is being attacked, it will be a form of threats to the nations of the country with the dam. So this will be the challenges for hydro. Then will be in terms of wind energy. So the first thing on challenges of wind will be wind is intermittent, meaning to say that wind, the availability of wind is not consistent. Sometimes there's windy days, some are not. And in terms of cost, it is high upfront cost. And then secondly, in terms of location to install this windmill will be the country with a lot of coastal area, or country with a lot of tops of rounded hills to have sufficient fan to install in the location, and also open plains or gaps in mountains. This will be the ideal location to install a windmill. Okay, and it's also dependent in the event even there is a wind, the wind speed must be at least ideally above 25 km/h in order to move the fin of the fans, and so that it will to generate kinetic energy, and after that, it will be transformed or generated into electricity. And in terms of environmental challenges, it creates a lot of noise pollutions. First thing, and second thing, the blades of the fan actually harm and kill a lot of birds and bats. So this will actually harm the ecosystem as well. And in terms of resources, you require a large space on these coastal area to build it. So why you require? Because it is not economic to only build one or two fan in one location, and that will not be economically viable to do so. And then of course, when you have installed this windmill, it will be the risk for this windmill is subject to a natural disaster like tornado, hurricanes, or cyclone, as it creates resistance to the airflow. Then, and when there is a natural disaster like a big storm, this windmill will be subject to damages. Okay, and in terms of maintenance, first thing is after the kinetic movement energy generate into electricity, you will need a battery to store the energy generated. And due to the design of the windmill fan tower, only a small battery can be installed inside the tower, and the lifespan of this small battery can about 4 to 5 years. Better quality one will be approximately 10 years. So after that, you need to replace it. And another thing with the battery is that you can only store the energy up to like hours, and you cannot store it for days or months. That's the problem. That's the challenges for wind energy. Okay, next will be in terms of solar energy. Okay, another challenge, similar to the wind energy, consistency is very subjective to weather. In the event it is a cloudy days, then the productivity will be low, and of course, it will be a very high upfront cost, especially battery. Why? Because you cannot install the battery directly beneath the solar panel. So what you have will be, you have a solar farm with rows and rows of solar panel, and it is all connected to a battery farm. So the requirement for battery is huge here in terms of costing. And then the location ideal for this solar energy will be places or country with sunlight throughout the year. This will be places like in the Middle East, and also like places like Malaysia, where you have a very heavy direct sunlight. Okay. In terms of environment, yes, it doesn't emit any carbon dioxide or harmful gases. It doesn't create any, it doesn't directly harm any ecosystem, but it does require a large use of land, and this may lead to deforestation. And another thing will be the pollution associated with manufacturing and disposal of the solar panel. This is a very big concern, because it takes other natural finite resources to produce those solar panels. And another more challenging aspect will be the disposal of the solar panel when the lifespan has reached maximum, where you need to properly recycle the solar panel, dispose it without harming the environment. And this actually require a lot of professional and also cost. Okay, the resources needed will be large amount of space required for optimal cost efficiency, and a risk having for solar here will be teeth. So because you might see that wire has been tapped into teeth and store the energy generated from solar panel into instead of going directly to the battery farm, it will be tapped by the teeth to their source. And in terms of maintenance, it's not very difficult, but it will require cleaning of the solar panel. If for Malaysia climate, it's better because Malaysia, we are actually have intermediate of rains. So this rain actually helps to clean the solar panel. But in places that is lack of rainfall, like Middle East, and what happens is that the dust carried by the wind will be covering the surface of the solar panel. When this happens, it will affect the capacity of the electricity generated. Okay. And then next one will be from the tidal wave. Okay, tidal wave energy. So consistency issue also similar. Tides are intermittent. Is very subjective to the current movement. And then of course same thing is this tidal wave dam plan will be quite similar. So far the technology there are two separated. One is those near to coastal area. Another one will be undersea turbine generation. So there are two main types. Both also involve high upfront cost for installation and also construction. Okay, in terms of location, there are limited ideal installation site available throughout the world, and there are only a very small number of tidal wave energy plant currently operating across the world. It is, I think, less than 20 or 30. Okay. Okay, it's dependent on the tides created and water current movement. So the tide surge are normally approximately only 10 hours a day. Sorry. So that is why it cannot generate a consistent energy to meet demand in the power grid. And then in terms of environment, it also damages ecosystem, marine life, alternation of currents and wave. Plus, it also emits electromagnetic field under the water source. Okay, and then it will, of course, it require large amount of space for optimal costing, and it takes long time to install, for even hard to install or construct for undersea tidal projects. Okay, and risk of this plant will be it could be damaged by a strong wave in the event there is like typhoon or high wind or even like a tsunami. Okay. Maintenance, of course, deep undersea stream generator maintenance are very costly because you need those divers to dive in to do maintenance. And for undersea steam generator, the lubricant might leak out, and also it could damage the marine life of the area of the plant. Next will be geothermal. So high upfront cost. But geothermal, there is no consistency issue because the heat beneath Earth are always consistent. It's just a question of how good the the accuracy and the exploration to identify those heat spot that is nearer to the Earth's surface. Why? Because the nearer it is to the Earth's surface, the less drilling, the less depth you need to drill down beneath Earth to acquire the heat to be generated into electricity. So in terms of location, it's very limited. You need to spot these geothermal energy source from those places in hot spring and also geyser. And for this technology for this power generation, you are highly dependent on the accuracy of the exploration and drilling technology to identify and drill the spot of the geothermal. So any miscalculation or misjudgment of this exploration or drilling could make the project, could turn the project into a failure. And there is number of failure cases happen throughout the world. Okay, in terms of environment, it still actually release small amount of greenhouse gases, but it is lower than burning fossil fuel comparatively. And another thing is that when this steam or liquid has been released from the surface, you need to have another hole where you need to pump in those water source back into the beneath the surface to have a proper circulation. So this actually could having a risk of creating a earthquake, because normally these hotspot of geothermal are normally located nearer to the major earth plates, so which is also normally a earthquake area. Okay, that is for geothermal. As for the last one will be on biomass. This is high. The challenges are highly dependent on the type of biomass plant. So cost varies, but normally higher than fossil fuel. It very much depends on the type of biomass plant. If it is from the landfill, then it could be slightly lower cost. But in terms of other biomass like burning wood or ethanol or like biofuel, then it will be a different story. Okay, it's also the dependence of this power plant will be the availability of the biomass related waste and large storage space is required. What does it means by, if let's say you build a biomass plant that burn wood product waste, so you will need to have consistent supply of this wood waste, and you will need to store it. You need large storage to store it, because why you need large storage is because in order to generate consistent energy, you will need to have a large storage so that these biomass can be burned. The supply to burning will be consistent to generate electricity. So that's a cost involved there. It is not entirely emission-free. It still emits carbon dioxide and some other small greenhouse gases. And this could also lead to deforestation, because you might need to plant more to generate enough biomass related waste for burning. To name a few, like of these will be like wood chip, or even like for grain, it will be the waste, the fiber of the grains, like corn, wheat, or soybean. So if this biomass plant is to be built, then to meet demand, we might need to plant more of these kind of agricultures, and this will lead to deforestation as a result of the utilization of energy. Okay, another due to today's topic is particularly against the crude oil performance, so that's why we need, like it or not, we will have to zoom into the area of EV. EV is actually electrical vehicle. So in terms of this is the demography of EV so far. As you can see that the growth is actually increasing steadily for EV market, and the number of EV vehicle sales has been increasing. So far, for as of year 2020, is globally there is 3.24 EV vehicle being sold, mainly in China and also EU and US. Okay, the challenges of EV will be, first thing is the practicality. Okay, you need a long hours of recharge time to fully charge an EV. And another thing will be in terms of the mileage coverage for a fully charged EV. So the mileage is rather limited as comparatively with fossil fuel vehicle. And due to this shortfall, there is a company that come up with the idea of battery swapping. So when you come up with this battery swapping, another challenges will be, okay, first thing is safety. How safe it is to change the battery, because when changing the battery, it could have some safety hazard, where the technician involved might get electrical shock, and also how fast you can do battery swapping. So as what they claim here is 5 minutes, but to me that will be something like to fill an empty tank fossil fuel. But again, if this technology is widely accepted, it will create another environment impact in terms of the manufacturing of battery and also the disposal of the battery. Okay, and of course another challenges here will be the cost and lifespan and the life cycle of battery. So in order to produce energy battery, lithium-ion battery, you will need to get the raw material manufactured first thing from natural resources, which is finite, and then the manufacturing of this battery actually emits carbon dioxide and other toxic gas also. And the even more challenging part is when this battery runs out of their lifespan, you will need a professional to handle the disposal and the recycling part of the battery. So this will also be a challenge of EV industry as a whole. Okay, another risk will be safety, risk of battery fire. Then will be another concern will be if most of the vehicle are fully EV, it will require a higher draw of power from the electric grid, and this is actually a challenge, and it could potentially overload the electric grid and cause fire to the electric grid also. That is also another area of concern on challenges. Okay, another thing is I'm sure this will be overcome as time moving forward in the future, but as of now, the availability of charging station is not that ideal, And also another challenges will be the charging socket. We don't have a uniform charging socket standard. So that will be a challenge also for EV. Okay, overall, in terms of the challenges of renewable energy, first thing is similarly across all type of renewable. First thing, location constraint and large land usage. Okay, and then another one will be, as of the current technology, the capacity to generate energy from renewable source is relatively low as compared to fossil fuel energy generation. Okay, and one of the most difficult challenges will be the third one is the inability to meet peak demand. So what is this? You might not be very clear about this. What does it mean is that because let's put in back to fossil fuel energy where you burn coal or natural gas to generate electricity. So the thing here is that because the demand for electricity is not linear, is not constant. So you have peak demand, you have low peak demand. Also, the peak demand is typically when people start working, and also when they finish work and go back home. And then after that, the demand will reduce when people go to sleep. So the thing is with this peak demand is that with fossil fuel, it can easily manage because when there is a peak hours for an electricity demand, basically they just continue to burn more of these fossil fuel to meet the demand. But for the problem with renewable is like example like solar, wind, tidal, and except for hydro, you will need after this because the available of this energy is intermittent. So meaning to say you don't have consistent of wind, you don't have consistent of sunlight, you don't have consistency of tidal waves. So when there is availability of this energy, it will be immediately being generated into electricity, and this electricity must be stored in a large battery farm to supply to the power grid. So what happened is that when there is a big jump in demand, due to the not consistency of the energy, it is not able to generate high electricity to supply to the peak demand when the demand arises. So this is one of the problem. Even with the battery farm, there's no way that this renewable can solve the problem without the help of fossil fuel. So that is the ultimate challenge, I would say, will be to meet peak demand for renewable energy. And then renewable energy can be unreliable and weather dependent, of course. And then it requires high level of storage, battery, and also transmit costs. Transmit costs basically meaning to say that from the power plant transmit to the power grid. So let's say like geothermal, for example, it is only located in places with geyser and hot springs. So if you build a power plant there, you will need a lot of resources to cable from all the way from the geothermal power plant to the power grid. So this is actually involve a lot of cost to build the cable or to transmit the power. Okay, and despite it is a cleaner source of energy, it still generate damage to the environment and create pollution as a whole. Okay, but of course, maybe the skill as compared to fossil fuel is lesser, but it's not entirely pollution or environmentally protected. Okay. Another question is, with the mass production and technology, costs, yes, will eventually come down, but when? So this will be still one of the reasons why we still need fossil fuel energy to produce electricity. Okay. And then another area of concern is renewable energy can help reduce emission, but at what cost? Meaning to say, let's say, like, for instance, like solar, wind power. Both of these require mass production of the equipment, and this mass production will also damage the environment. And after that, for the case of battery, you will need to mass produce a battery, and it is not just in terms of monetary. What does it mean? It's just not in terms of monetary cost. It's also in terms of environment cost. In terms of it also contributes to global warming and emit CO2. So which is not entirely the life cycle of renewables is actually not entirely free of pollution, and it costs a lot more. It could cost a lot more to produce energy as compared to fossil fuel. Okay. And then another thing will be, so far there's only a very few number of countries that have pledged to these zero emission. So this will also be a challenge for renewable energies to grow, to entirely replace fossil fuel. Okay, and another area another info that I would like to show you is in terms of the decarbonization. This is actually in terms of number of carbon dioxide emits to the air. As you can see, it is steadily in a growing trend. Okay, in terms of the sectors of CO2 emission, electricity and heat is the main contributor, followed by transport, and then manufacturing and construction. Okay, and this is another chart. As you can see here, energy is the largest slide of the greenhouse emission in terms of sector, followed by agriculture, forestry, and land use. Okay, this is in terms of continents. Steadily increase. The large part will be from Asia as of now, followed by North America. Okay, in terms of the slide of CO2 emission for fossil fuel, coal is the largest contributor with 44%, followed by oil 33%, and also natural gas is 22%. For your information, natural gas is the cleanest form of fossil fuel. Yeah, it emits the least CO2 compared to other fossil fuel. It's the cleanest form of fossil fuel energy for natural gas. So demand for natural gas is expected to continue growing in this transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy. Okay, this is a more clearer picture of CO2 emission by fuel type: coal, oil, and gas, followed by cement. So the production of cement also contributes to a lot of CO2 emission. Okay, this is in terms of global warming. Okay, why is carbon emission related to this global warming or average temperature. Okay, the thing is, when you have a large amount of carbon dioxide scattered across the atmosphere, what happens is that heat cannot be released out from the atmosphere, and it is like a person wearing a heat jacket all the time. So even and with a lot more carbon released to the atmosphere, it is like us wearing a heat jacket all the time, and we cannot take up that jacket. Even the temperature is high, we cannot take out the jacket. We are forced to carry the jacket within our body, so we will constantly be pressured by the heat under our body. That is why the carbon emission contribute to the climate global warming. Okay. Okay, this is in terms of total greenhouse gases emission on the world, constantly rising. Greenhouse gases is various kind. The largest slide will be carbon dioxide and methane, followed by other small greenhouse gases. This is the share. As you can see, CO2 is the largest, almost 75%, followed by methane. Okay, this is a very interesting story. This man is actually Sir Professor David Mackay. So he is the professor of Cambridge University. So he actually published a book called Sustainable Energy Without the Hot Air. So he's been the head leading for renewable energy council for the UK. So this is actually a graph that he constructed. Okay, he is actually a supporter of renewable energy, but he keep on emphasizing on the cost of renewable energy to human as a whole. As you can see, this is the map of United Kingdom. In order for renewable energy to power the entire UK, this will be the amount of land occupied by renewable energy plant in order to power the entire UK. So in terms of practicality and efficiency, it is very low. So this is what he's trying to highlight here. And he has been, if you have a time, please take a look at his video. You can YouTube his name, David Mackay, Renewable Energies. There will be quite 2 or 3 slides, very meaningful slides that you can go through. This actually, he created awareness of not to overhype on renewable energy, and we have to deeply consider the carrying cost of renewable energy as a whole to human beings, not just in terms of monetary. Okay, now this is the number of countries, the status of their pledge in net zero emission. As you can see, as of now, only 2 countries in the world already achieved net zero carbon emission, which first thing will be this is called Suriname. Suriname is actually a country in South America. It is just above Brazil. And another country will be Bhutan. This is in a country in Asia. It is just beside Tibet. And other developed countries are naturally having the pledge to go zero emission by 2050, beside Sweden, which is 5 years earlier. And only less than 10 of them are put it in their constitution, in law. and other are merely in the form of proposed legislation. Okay, now for the area of decarbonization, one thing to highlight here will be, compared to the amount of energy generated and being used, there are actually more wastage. More than half energy are wasted compared to it's being consumed by human. Okay, so one thing is, of course, the efficiency of the energy itself. The second thing is due to our human lifestyle and behavior as a result of this wastage. Okay, the solution for decarbonization will be, first thing, of course, to improve the energy efficiency. Okay, and then there is another technology that is being in practice will be carbon capture. So this can be in the form of man-made or nature. So nature will be, obviously you could have already aware, which is to plant more tree and forests. And man-made will be those carbon capture mechanism installed in those fossil fuel plant to capture the emission of the carbon. Okay, of course, renewable energy is a form of a solution for decarbonization, and also more importantly is the change of consumer lifestyle and behavior. This is in the form of how frequent we actually make sure we switch off we turn off the switch when we don't need the energy of lights, the air condition, how maximum we set our water heater heat thermostat, how frequent we limit the thermostat for heating, or let's say like for average cool weather, instead of turning on the heater, we can wear a sweater. And also in terms of how frequently we left the engine idle and running, and for the sake of taking the air conditioning when we are inside the car, instead of switch off the engine and get ourselves out of the car and move into a cooler space. So all this also contribute to decarbonization. It's not just renewable energy alone that can help decarbonization. Okay, this is actually carbon capture technology. So it is installed in those carbon emission plant to capture the carbon. Okay, this is the number of carbon capture technology being installed across the world. As you can see, the number is being very limited, and there is still room for more of this carbon capture installation. Okay, as a summary, renewable energy can't replace fossil fuel entirely, and this actually in the near future of at least 10 or 20 years. More than that is subject to the development of technology, and it is too early to tell on whether fossil fuel will be totally being phased out. Because why is this? First thing, we wouldn't know how the renewable technology will evolve and progress. Second thing is, we also wouldn't know how the carbon capture technology will evolve and progress. So it could be the case that we will be running both renewable and non-renewable source concurrently, instead of phasing out the non-renewable energy totally. Okay. And the last segment will be on the price outlook. Okay, so fundamental outlook, we have the few area of to focus on. First thing is on the bullish factor. So if it is bullish, then it will be in the form with factors to be focused on will be the OPEC scaling back of production policy. Will they continue to enforce limits production and prefer higher crude oil price compared to market share? If this continue, then it will be bullish outlook for the prices. Another thing, it will be, could there be any Middle East tension or unrest? Okay, this will also be bullish for crude oil prices. And then, of course, progress of vaccination globally. If vaccination progress smoothly, the will be a good news for global economic recovery, and this will lead to better consumption. And also pent up of demand for travel. So as the vaccination progress, how quickly human beings will resume to traveling, particularly in air travel and also long distance travel. So how will human beings still willing to travel more often as compared to pre-pandemic? Because first thing, due to available of technology to have a video conference rather than to be on location meetings. So this will also be, meaning to say, as a whole, will be the change in human behavior as in come to long distance traveling. Okay. On the opposite side will be the bullish factor of concern. First thing, we will have the progress of Iran. There has been negotiation between Iran and US to actually lift the embargo for Iran oil. So if this happens, it will be a return of Iran oil supply to the market. And first thing, and also as a OPEC member, how compliant Iran is to the policy of OPEC. So this will determine the number of supply available for crude oil. If Iran the embargo is lifted and it will comply to OPEC policy, then it will be it could be in the form of surge in supply for crude oil. That will be a negative impact for crude oil prices. Okay, and of course for OPEC policy, if OPEC switch their policy from preferring higher crude oil prices to higher market share, then they will be increasing their production. So that will be bad news for the crude oil prices as well. Of course, another immediate concern will be COVID-19 crisis. Will the mutation of viruses continue to block the vaccination progress? So this will also be a factor of concerns on the demand side. Okay, now this will be on the forecast from OPEC on crude oil consumption, as they projected that crude oil will still be demand for oil consumption will still be continue higher, as you can see, even except for coal. Natural gas, of course, still increasing. They even projected nuclear and also renewable energies. Okay, and this is International Energy Agency forecast. They also forecasted a higher global oil demand moving forward. And this is the forecast from McKinsey. As you can see, they actually projected that fossil fuel demand will only peak somewhere near 2027. Okay, coal already peaked on year 2014, and it is slowly slowing down. But oil will only peak on 2029, and gas is at 2037. So there's still a long way to go for fossil fuel. More than 20 years. And this is a forecast for McKinsey for renewable power generation. They forecast that renewable will only meet 50% of the power generation by year 2035. So it's still a long way to go for fossil fuel for power generations. Okay. Now, in terms of technical, so overall, this is the daily chart. This is a 6-month daily chart for crude oil prices. As you can see that it is still in an uptrend, generally higher low, higher high. In terms of other technical indicator, it has actually slowly forming a divergence. You can have a higher high here, higher high, but you didn't see a higher high and higher high in MACD and also RSI. So what does it mean is that yes, January is still in an uptrend, but the uptrend strength is not that great, and it could prone to a pullback very soon. As you can see that the candle body is also not very convincing as compared to the candle here, which is very large. It is mostly a small body white candle with some doji. So crude oil prices could bounce for some pullback in the near term, but generally is still within an uptrend. So don't try to short the market. Maybe another better strategy will be to buy on dip and don't change the market if there is a big spike. Okay. But in terms of the weekly chart, there is an uptrend ever since last year disaster for crude oil. It has been recovering and moving up. Okay, so there's no weaknesses in terms of indicators being spotted. Generally, it's still in an uptrend, but in terms of the volatility, it's been slowing down because you can see Bollinger Band has been narrowing. As you can see, the price movement is rather smaller and smaller, and it could. So this is also meaning to say that a small pullback can be happen in the weekly chart, which is also corresponding with the daily chart. Okay, so as a summary, daily short to mid-term chart having divergence with possible major pullback, but overall still an uptrend. The uptrend remain intact. And for the weekly, mid-term to longer-term chart, still uptrend remain intact without any weaknesses spotted. If the pullback to occur, the 66.5 level would be a major support. 60s, somewhere near here, I would say, as a major support. This is where the majority of the previous high, which is a break of resistance, turn into support level also. Okay. Okay, that's for all for my presentation. I leave some room for questions.
Okay, thank you, Chong, for your presentation. We hope you found it useful and informative. We will now proceed with the Q&A session. Firstly, I would like to draw your attention to the bottom of the chat box. You will see at the bottom there's a column which reads "Send to everybody." Can you all please click on it and switch it to "Send to admin only"? Okay, and then to the right of that, you will see a chat mode. There's a text box there. Can you please click on the chat box and it will switch to Q&A mode? Yeah. So we would please set it as "Send to admin only and Q&A mode. You may now key in your questions. Okay, due to time constraints, we might not be able to answer all your questions, but rest assured, any questions that we do not answer during this session, we will reply to you in your registered email. Okay, we have a few questions coming in. Okay, we have one from David. David wants to know, is the current oil rally sustainable? And if it is, for how long?
Goldman Sachs actually projected that it could reach 80 per barrel. If provided certain conditions are met, first thing, the vaccination rolled out smoothly globally, available of vaccine on demand by third quarter of the year, and the mutation of the virus doesn't affect the vaccination immunity. And also last condition will be OPEC still prefer to limit production as meaning to say they prefer a higher crude oil prices as opposed to higher market share. If these all are in place, yes, it is likely that crude oil price can reach higher, and it is possible to reach 80 per barrel level. Personally, I think it is possible. And in terms of the underlying technical trend, there's no weakness being spotted, is still on the uptrend. So chances of it continue to reach higher is there. So if you're planning to trade crude oil, try not to short. Doing more long trade than short, it will be better. Okay, Evan.
Okay, we have another question actually from David as well. This is a follow through. Basically, he wants to know, although the price of this crude oil has gone up by leaps and bounds since early 2020, and then after that the price of the crude oil even went to negative. He just wants to know, why does the oil stocks, the oil shares, the oil and gas shares in Bursa is stagnant?
That one I'm not an expert, but generally the thing with oil and gas counter, especially those maintenance contractors counters, they are running on contract basis. So basically, those that are contract that already awarded to those oil and gas company is already priced into their prices. Unless there is new moving forward, there is more contract, and contract is going to award to this company, I don't see the price of this oil and gas counter will go up. So that's the thing. And if you are a producer of oil like Petronas, Shell, or Exxon, you won't be giving your contractor the pricing based on the crude oil prices. I won't think that is a viable economical ways to do maintenance for your oil well and also refinery. That's my view. Evan.
Okay, we have a question from Chin. Wants to know, how about the EV trend impact on oil consumption? Because many countries are planning to cut it before 2030.
Of course, in terms of EV, it will be the immediate threat for gasoline particularly. But the thing is, the beauty of fossil fuel is that, let's say Malaysia, now the entire fossil fuel vehicle has been replaced by EV. You still need fossil fuel to be burned to generate electricity to meet EV charging. So that actually doesn't affect crude oil prices. But it could affect gasoline prices. I mean, petrol station, but in terms of crude oil prices, it will not have a big impact. It will maybe have big impact on gasoline prices. Yes. Okay, Evan.
Okay. Due to time constraints, we will just take one final question from Kata. Basically, he wants to know whether you think that the price of crude oil will go up to $100 per barrel.
That is too far to predict, to be honest, and we can only see stages by stages. Like now, the projection is 80, so now it's already June. So basically, after the second quarter, we will do some assessment, and the market is dynamic, the supply and demand is dynamic, so and the weather is dynamic. So in this sense, you have to do it step by step. You cannot like give it like a very big forecast how we can hit 100. If you ask me, possibly yes, it is possible, but you still have to be assessed based on the macro and also the development as of the time goes by, you see. So it's it will be too far to project that level for now, I would say. And if the Iran agreement reach agreement with US, then you will see that Iran oil will be come back to the market officially, rather than now Iran is being forced to only sell to people like China and India. And if the embargo is being lifted, meaning to say Iran can sell their oil to anyone, particularly in the US, so that could also affect it. So that's my view for now. Too early to tell for 100 per barrel. But 80, yes, it is possible. Okay, back to you, Kevin.
Yep, thank you, Chong, for this ends our Q&A session. As I said before, those questions that were not answered during this session, we will respond to them directly to the email which you have registered for this webinar. Okay, so next, moving on, we would actually appreciate your feedback on today's seminar because this basically allows us to provide you with better webinar sessions in the futures. So now we will post a link on the chat box, and we appreciate it if you could help us provide us with your feedback on today's session. Okay, you can see the link there. So please do click on that link, and we will we value your feedback on this webinar. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. A recording of today's webinar session will be available in our Kenanga Futures website. So you can just log into our website, and you can get a recording of today's session in the link provided. So if you have any require any further information, please do reach out to us via email or call. The details are attached on the screen now, and so we would be glad to assist you if you have any further queries. Okay, so that wraps it up for our session this evening. Good night and stay safe. Thank you.
What are you clicking?
Click KenangaFutures.com.my, Malaysia's leading derivatives broker.